Right now, as you watch this, almost everything you're doing online is traveling through a glass thread on the bottom of the ocean, thinner than a garden hose. Not a satellite, not the cloud. A physical cable lying in the dark, thousands of miles of it, draped across the seabed where almost no one can see it or protect it. And here's the part that should stop you cold. Somewhere between 95 and 99% of all the data that crosses an ocean, every international email, every video call, every bank transfer, entire economies moving in real time, runs through roughly 600 of these cables. That's it. 600 fragile lines holding up the entire digital world. Cut enough of them in the right places, and the internet doesn't slow down. For whole regions, it stops. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you three things. Why the most important infrastructure on Earth is also the most exposed, sitting unguarded on the ocean floor. Who's been quietly cutting these cables and why nobody can prove it? And the strange, almost invisible war now being fought to protect them that most people have no idea is happening. Most people won't notice this until the day their connection dies for reasons no one explains. You're seeing it now, early. If you like the stuff hiding in plain sight, the systems the modern world runs on but never talks about, hit subscribe. It genuinely keeps this channel alive, and that's the only time I'll ask. Let's get into it. The invisible backbone. Start with the thing itself because the reality is almost absurd. The cable carrying half the traffic between two continents isn't some armored, guarded pipeline. Out in the deep ocean, it can be as thin as a garden hose. Inside is a bundle of glass fibers, each about the width of a human hair, and your data races through them as pulses of light, bouncing down the glass at nearly the speed of light under thousands of miles of water. There are around 600 of these systems in service or planned, stretching over 1.5 million kilometers along the seabed. That's enough cable to wrap around the planet dozens of times. They come ashore at more than 1,700 landing points. Quiet little stations on coastlines, often in unremarkable buildings you'd walk past without a glance. That building might be the only thing connecting an entire country to the rest of the internet. And people assume space took over. It didn't. Satellites, even the giant new constellations with thousands of them up there, still carry only a tiny fraction of intercontinental traffic. The cables are faster, cheaper, and hold vastly more capacity. Every satellite in orbit combined can't come close. So the deep, boring truth is this. The future of the internet still lies at the bottom of the sea. Which raises the obvious, uncomfortable question: if it's that important, why is it so easy to break? The easiest target in the world. Here's where it gets unsettling. These cables break all the time. Roughly 200 faults happen every single year. Most are mundane. A fishing trawler dragging its net, a ship dropping anchor in the wrong spot, an undersea landslide. The ocean is just a rough place to leave delicate glass. For decades, that was fine, because the network is built with redundancy. Cut one cable, and traffic reroutes through another. The system was designed to survive accidents, but it was designed for accidents. Random, spread out, one at a time. It was never designed for someone deliberately cutting several cables at once, in exactly the spots where there's no backup. And picture how easy that is. You don't need a submarine or a torpedo. You need a ship and an anchor. You drop the anchor, you sail slowly, and you drag it for miles across the seabed. Steel chain versus a garden hose cable. The cable loses every time. It's crude, it's cheap, and here's the genius of it. When they catch you, you just say it was an accident. Rough weather, the anchor slipped. How do they prove otherwise on the bottom of the ocean with no cameras? That deniability is the whole weapon. And in the last 2 years, it's been used again and again and again. The war nobody declared, look at the Baltic Sea, and the pattern stops looking like bad luck. November 2024, 2 cables cut within roughly 24 hours of each other. One between Lithuania and Sweden, another the only cable linking Finland to the European mainland. Suspicion landed on a bulk carrier that had just left a Russian port, its track lining up with the times and places of the breaks. December 2024. A power cable between Finland and Estonia goes down. Finland seizes a tanker tied to Russia's so-called shadow fleet, the fleet of aging ships used to dodge sanctions, and later says it found drag marks scarring the seabed where an anchor had been pulled along the bottom. Then it keeps happening. Into 2025 and beyond, cable after cable in the Baltic, Sweden, Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, damaged in incident after incident. Some ruled accidents, some still under investigation. In one case, Sweden recovered objects with traces of explosives. And that's the maddening part. Almost none of it gets cleanly pinned on anyone. The ships sail in international waters where you can't just board them. The evidence is under hundreds of feet of water. Russia denies everything. So NATO is left watching a slow, deniable campaign against the wiring of the modern world, and struggling to prove a single case in court. That's the war. No declaration, no front line. Just cables going dark, and a fleet of anonymous ships that always happen to be nearby. Fighting back in the dark. So how do you defend 600 cables strung across the entire ocean floor? You can't put a guard on all of it. But that quiet war has kicked off an equally quiet defense, and it's moving fast. NATO launched a dedicated Baltic patrol mission, putting frigates, aircraft, and naval drones over the suspected zones. The European Commission committed close to €1 billion to boost cable surveillance and, this is the clever part, to build a fleet of emergency repair ships. Because deterrence is hard, but resilience is achievable. If you can't always stop the cut, you make sure you can fix it in hours instead of weeks. There's a whole invisible industry behind that. A small global fleet of specialized repair ships that sail out, grapple a broken cable up from the seabed with a hook, haul both severed ends to the surface, splice the hair-thin glass back together by hand, and lower it back down. Now navies are wiring cables with smarter monitoring, so the exact instant and location of a break shows up immediately, turning the cable itself into a tripwire that says someone was just here. And the stakes are only climbing. Investment in new subsea cables is set to roughly double, heading toward $13 billion as the AI boom demands ever more data crossing the oceans, which means more cable, more capacity, and a bigger, more tempting target than ever. So here's where it leaves us, the entire connected world. Your money, your work, your calls, whole economies, hangs on a few hundred glass threads lying unguarded in the dark, and a quiet contest is now underway over who can cut them and who can keep them alive. You'll never see these cables. You'll probably never think about them again after today. But every time the internet just works, it's because something on the ocean floor is still intact, and someone, somewhere, is working to keep it that way. If that changed how you see the thing in your hand right now, subscribe. This is exactly the kind of hidden machinery I dig into. So I'll leave you with the real question. Should protecting these cables be treated as national defense, warships, patrols, the works? Or is the honest truth that no navy on Earth can guard the whole ocean floor, and we're simply hoping the next cut isn't the big one? Tell me where you land in the comments.